everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your natal Uranus in the 7th house of committed partnership. I want to give a shout out to advancedastrology.com for the the information that I'm going to touch upon. And the 7th house, in addition to being the house of relationships, one-on-one relationships, is also the house of legal affairs and they say it in here publicity, but I've also heard it called public relations. I actually like publicity because I think it really hits the nail on the head better. I was kind of struggling with that when I was thinking about that recently. So, but first I'm going to talk about relationships because Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, and the influence that it exerts on people is going to be felt in the house that it's in because it is an outer planet. In other words, a personal planet like Mars or Venus is going to be more influential in terms of its sign, as well as the house placement, but it will be all around more influential because it is a personal planet and it's very unique to your profile, whereas you share Uranus with people years before and after you. It's like, I think it's usually like a 7-year transit about. So it's not that personal to you, but it is an influence and it is going to be in a certain house. And so for those people who have it in the 7th house, you are unconventional when it comes to your attitude towards committed partnership. Now, the 7th house can be all one-on-one relationships, including business partnerships, but also like friendships that you are dealing with in a more intimate way. You know, the 11th house is more like collective or group associations, or your social circle as a whole. It can be friends, but I mean this is more of that dynamic one-on-one. And in all of these cases, when Uranus is in the 7th house, you need a long leash. You need a lot of freedom. And I would also say that you need something that is different, because I think that Uranus wants to stand out apart from the masses and their conformity to whatever the tradition is or the social standards. The Uranian influence wants to rebel against that. So what I like to say is that there might be a chance, if you have Uranus in the 7th house, that you are actually more of a what we'd call polyamorous type of person. I was going to say a polygamist, but I meant polyamorous. Like you can love more than one person, because the Aquarian ideal, since Aquarius rules the 11th house, is, I was going to say love the one you're with, but actually it's more like not having preferential treatment. People who are Aquarians, they don't think that you should be partial to a particular person. You should be kind of universal. So that's how love is approached. Well, as we know, people who are in love like to, most people, I would say, like to feel like they are special, that the person that is with them has more feelings for them than they do for other people. Well, that would make an Aquarian type of person cringe, because first of all, they might say there's enough to go around and all this stuff. Free love, we'll call it that too. And that nobody owns anybody else. I have Venus in Aquarius. So I understand that concept very easily. But I also have Taurus rising. And I also understand possessiveness. And some of you may have Uranus in the 7th house, but you may have the sun in Scorpio or Cancer or Taurus, or, having Venus in Taurus, where you think of your lover or your partner as your possession, in a sense. I mean, maybe not literally, but in a sense. And so this can cause a lot of conflicts within yourself, let alone your life as a whole. I think if you have this placement, you have to be very clear on what you feel about what marriage represents. And I want you to know that when I use the term marriage, I am not exclusively speaking about wedding rings and contracts. I'm also talking about live-in domestic situations that are monogamous, let's say. And if you try to force yourself into a round hole in your square peg, you're going to find it very difficult. So you have to be very, very careful about the person you decide to commit to, if you do decide to commit to a specific person, because that could be, you might be trying to force yourself to be something that you're not. It will be easier for you to be your own person if your sun is in Aquarius, if your sun is in, or we could say the moon, or in Sagittarius. You just may have, or Gemini, you may have a more, I dare say this, but a liberal attitude about what it means to couple with someone. And I follow these people who are polyamorous on social media, and the type of relationship that I'm talking about is not an open marriage about sleeping around with anyone, although it could be something like that, but even having strong, loving connections with more than one person, not just the sex, you know what I mean? But even if it was just about sex with other people, it's mutual openness. That's what we're talking about, where the person, does not want to be tied down to one individual. So yeah, I mean, it kind of can complicate issues that involve commitment for you, and make you confused. If you come from a more conservative background, you may not understand how you feel and why you feel that way, and feel that maybe you're doing something wrong, bizarre, whatever. And so that's something that I would definitely say to be very aware of your attitudes towards commitment, and don't allow yourself to try to fit into somebody else's standards. Okay, let's see what else they say here. And they talk about a lot of shifts in these kinds of relationships, because Uranus, obviously, I'm assuming it's because it's so unpredictable. And another thing is the idea of meeting in seemingly random ways, where, unpredictable ways. And it could be very ordained by, destiny, but it could be like in the fruit aisle, of a grocery store, and you least expect it in a certain setting, but that's where you meet your soulmate or something like that. So you have to, the thing is, the 7th house is a house of committed partnership. Or I sound like a robot. I'm saying the same thing. What I mean is, it's the house of the other. So you have to be able to not be so, I don't want to call it self-centered, but stubborn. Since Uranus rules Aquarius, and Aquarius is a fixed sign, there can be that kind of a set type of attitude that it makes it hard to be flexible. And that is an important thing because that's what this house is all about. In order to master this placement and this house, in terms of the publicity of the seventh house, I'm not like really keen on what they're saying. I'm going to just say some things on my own. I feel like this, Uranus is electric. So I feel that it can give somebody a kind of a public aura that is very alluring and it magnetic. It draws people in. And so it might be that you shoot to public recognition in a very sudden way, maybe out of nowhere. And I believe because Uranus is connected to technology, that could be the medium. For instance, the internet is Uranus. And I was surprised that they didn't mention anything about the internet with I think I said Uranus, internet with public relations, because to me in this day and age, that's the first thing I would think of. And the interesting thing about that when we talk about the internet is that it's do it yourself. You don't have to wait for your big break and sit by a soda fountain and have somebody discover you. You can post your own videos, and like a viral video can put you on the map or something. I mean, it can be like this simple twist of fate. That's a name of a Bob Dylan song, and then all of a sudden you're on your way, and there's this sense of people being drawn to you. You're going to have an unusual image for some reason, but that can be good because sometimes when people are just like normies, we call them, where they just kind of like are mainstream type of people, they can blend into the woodwork. They can fade into the woodwork because they're a dime a dozen. People who are eccentric and ahead of their time, they will tend to make it. It's funny, I was thinking of Tiny Tim, and Tiny Tim was, kind of like a novelty act. And I think he was an Aquarius. And that's like the perfect thing when we talk about novelty because of the person's eccentric persona, that certain people can kind of catapult into fame simply by being themselves, which is like really out of the box, And these kinds of things can be, a double-edged sword, because sometimes the very thing that can make a person gain that publicity can also give them kind of notoriety because of their behavior or how they are perceived by others. So it's not like it's just 100% positive all the time. But, they say there's no such thing as bad publicity as long as they're talking about you. And you might, going back to relationships, you might be attracted to Aquarius types of people who are a little bit different. Maybe you could call them strange, but they might be very intelligent. This is about freedom, and I think that's the ultimate, and that's why I was mentioning open relationships, because really the Aquarian ideal is friendship, since it rules that house. So whoever it is that you hook up with, you want them to also be your friend. You're not looking for somebody that is just friends with benefits and then you can't even talk to them. It has to be friends too. Maybe it's benefits, but it has to be friends. And like I said, with the intellectual rapport, it won't be just sex, in other words. That's why I say the allure of an unconventional relationship might be very attractive to you, and you don't want to just have a white picket fence and 2.5 kids. You just want something that is what you want, what you make of it. So if you have commitment issues and you feel bad about this for some reason, learn to embrace that freak flag of yours that shows up in this area of life. If your sun is in Cancer, for instance, and you're like, why can't I just be normal as it pertains to committed partnerships? There's a part of yourself, and the sun is certainly a very strong influence, but we have to take these influences as they come. And with the 7th house, that might be something that is a little bit different that you want. You may have that need, even if you want to be legally married to somebody, that you still maintain separate residences. And other people might think that that was insane. But if it works for you, that's what matters. If it makes you feel psychologically like you have your own space and you're not being smothered, then that's the important thing to keep in mind. And other people's opinions are none of your business. So let them have their opinions. You can have your relationships the way that you want them. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, I do all kinds of chart interpretation, and I have double readings that are specially priced for the purpose of diving deep. That's the name of my double astrology reading, where I really look at your chart, but also the transits some of the important transits are coming up in the next 12 months as a package deal for special price. And I have standalone readings as well. You can find out more information about all of that at rainandmoonastrology.com. The link is below. Take care. Bye.